Somewhere between "I'm hungry" and "I have a mortgage," humans found time to invent losing things on purpose. Today we do it with slot machines, poker apps, and a cousin who swears he has a system for blackjack. But peel off the flashing lights and the free drinks, and gambling is just an old idea wearing new shoes. You own something, you risk it, and chance decides if you still own it later. So who thought uncertainty needed a price tag? Nobody really. It crept in slowly, the same way most bad ideas do, one curious human at a time. Before betting, humans needed practice guessing. And prehistoric life was basically a non-stop guessing game. Will the herd cross this valley today? Will the berries still be there? Will that shadow behave itself? Our ancestors who survived weren't the ones who avoided uncertainty. They were the ones who got good at handling it. Brains evolved to track patterns, weigh risky choices against safe ones, and remember which gambles paid off. Nobody was betting shells on a mammoth race. But the wiring that lets you feel a thrill when an outcome is unknown? That's ancient, and gambling later plugged straight into it. Now, every culture eventually found its own object to throw. In Mesopotamia and the Aegean, it was a straggly, ankle bones taken from butchered livestock, because nature basically pre-built a lopsided die and handed it to us for free. But travel elsewhere, and the randomizer changes shape entirely. In ancient China, by at least the Han Dynasty, players were tossing rod-shaped counting sticks and moving pieces around a board game called Liu Bois, a strategy race dictated partly by the drop of the sticks. Nobody carved a rulebook that survived intact, so historians are still arguing over exactly how it was played. But tomb paintings show people hunched over Liu Bois boards with the exact same intensity as someone refreshing a parlay bet today. Across the Atlantic, long before European contact, indigenous nations across North America played dice and bowl games using flat wooden or bone discs, shaken in a bowl and slammed onto the ground. Points were scored depending on how the pieces landed face up or face down. Wagers in some communities involved tools, food, or crafted goods, and the games carried social and sometimes ceremonial weight. Chance wasn't just entertainment, it was a shared event the whole camp could gather around. Meanwhile, in medieval Scandinavia, rune casting straddled a familiar blurry line. Was this fortune-telling, or was somebody just having fun with sticks? Carved runes were cast and read, and while historians debate how much of this was formal divination versus later romanticized reconstruction, the underlying instinct is familiar. Humans throwing marked objects and assigning meaning to how they fall. Then, centuries later, a genuinely new randomizer showed up: paper. Playing cards likely originated in 9th century China, before spreading along trade routes into the Islamic world and eventually Europe by the 1300s. Cards did something dice never could. They let players hide information. A die shows the same face to everyone. A hand of cards is a secret, which meant a whole new kind of gambling was born, not just betting on luck, but bluffing about it. By the time European gambling houses formalized into casinos in the 1600s, humans had cycled through bones, sticks, discs, runes, and paper. Different materials, same impulse. Every society that developed spare time and portable wealth eventually invented its own machine for producing suspense. The thread connecting a Han Dynasty Liu Bois board to a runecaster in Norway to a Vegas card table isn't the equipment. It's the moment somebody looked at an unpredictable outcome and thought, "This would be more interesting if I had something to lose." That thought didn't need writing, coinage, or casinos to exist. It just needed two people, an object that could land more than one way, and something either of them cared about keeping. The bones changed. The bet didn't.